Just 2 weeks after I lost my husband, my best friend tricked me into going on a blind date with her creepy single friend. The sun had just started to dip below the horizon when I woke up that morning. It was one of those rare days when everything felt normal. For a fleeting moment, it almost felt like the world hadn't been ripped from under my feet, that my life wasn't shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. But it always comes rushing back. The crushing weight of reality. The absence of him. My husband. We met under the most unexpected circumstances. He was a farmhand at his uncle's farm, the one that was just a short drive out of town, the place where I spent my summers as a kid. I had never been the type to dream about grand gestures or fairy tale endings, but there he was, dirty, rough around the edges, but there was something in his eyes. Something that made me believe. The first time he smiled at me, I felt like I could breathe again. And in a world that was loud, chaotic, and never at peace, that was the calm I had been searching for my entire life. We had big plans. Dreams of a quiet life, away from the noise, surrounded by green fields and peace. And then it all came crashing down just like that. A car accident. The kind that shakes you to your core. A second's mistake, a wrong turn, and it was over. I never even had the chance to say goodbye. How does someone get over that? I didn't know how to function without him. It was like everything I'd known, every routine, every comfort had vanished. I had become a stranger to myself. The days blurred together and all I could do was get through the next breath, the next minute. I had lost my other half, the person who understood me better than anyone. And now the silence in our home was deafening. To make matters even more complicated, I was pregnant. I hadn't told anyone yet. I wanted to, but I wasn't sure how. The news should have been a beacon of hope, of something to hold on to. But instead, it felt like an anchor dragging me deeper into the sea. How was I supposed to bring a child into this broken world? The only person who seemed to care, or at least tried to, was Layla. She had been my best friend for as long as I could remember. We met in high school, both of us awkward and unsure of where we fit in. She was the loud, outspoken one, and I was the quiet, reserved girl who preferred to stay in the background. But somehow we balanced each other out. She was the one who made me laugh when I thought I couldn't anymore. And she was the one who held me together when the grief threatened to consume me. But things were different now. Layla had her own life. She was with Barry, this guy she'd met a few months ago. They were inseparable, always tagging along with Liam, another friend from their group. I never particularly liked Liam. From the moment I met him, he seemed off. There was something about him that rubbed me the wrong way. He'd made it clear from the start that he wasn't interested in just being a friend. He had a way of making everything about him, as though he was constantly trying to compete with my late husband. The first time we met, he'd made some offhand comment about how our future kids would look better than mine and my husband's, as if he had the right to talk about things like that. I'd brushed it off at first, but his persistence grew more irritating with time. He kept comparing himself to my husband, trying to insinuate that I needed a city boy, like that would somehow be better than the life I had with my husband. I ignored him as best as I could, but his remarks were always there, lingering in the background like a persistent itch. I tried not to dwell on it, focusing instead on my grief. But then came that night. Layla had texted me asking if I wanted to come to dinner. She said she wanted to treat me, make me feel better after everything I'd been through. I wasn't in the mood for company, but she insisted. And honestly, I was desperate for some semblance of normality. So I agreed. When I arrived, I was surprised to find that Layla wasn't there. I waited for a while, texting her to ask how much longer she'd be. She told me she was running late. Typical Layla. I didn't mind. I sat at the table, ordered a drink, and tried to distract myself. 10 minutes later, still no sign of her. I thought about leaving, but then Liam showed up. He rushed over to my table, apologizing for being late, his eyes full of that same strange intensity that always made me uncomfortable. I didn't know why he was there, so I asked. He gave me some half-baked excuse about how Layla had asked him to come along, but something didn't sit right with me. The whole situation felt off. I was about to tell him I wasn't interested to leave, but before I could say anything, he grabbed my hand. I jerked it away from him, feeling sick to my stomach. He seemed unfazed, only responding with that all-too-familiar smirk. He said something about how now that my husband wasn't in the picture, it was the perfect time for us to get to know each other. I was done. I stood up, told him I wasn't interested, and that I had just lost my husband. But that didn't stop him. Without a hint of empathy or respect, he brushed it off, telling me I was just being overly emotional, and that he forgave me for it. His words felt like a slap in the face. He even suggested that we didn't have to rush things, that we didn't have to sleep together right away. I couldn't believe it. I left, my heart pounding in my chest. The whole experience left me disgusted and shaken, and when I got home, Layla had the audacity to text me, asking how dinner went. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I called her and tore into her. How could she do this to me? She knew what I was going through, and yet she thought it was a good idea to set me up with Liam? After everything I had been through, after losing my husband, this was how she treated me? I ended the call, telling her I needed space. I blocked her and didn't want to hear from anyone, especially not Barry or Liam. Then the next day things escalated. Barry showed up at my door demanding to talk. He tried to guilt-trip me, saying I had hurt Layla and that Liam was only trying to help. He even went so far as to say that Liam could raise my baby with me, as if it was something I'd ever want. My emotions were already at a breaking point, and when Barry didn't leave, I went outside and chased him down the driveway, yelling at him, hitting his car with my shoes. It was the most embarrassing thing I had ever done, but I couldn't stop myself. The messages from everyone came flooding in after that. Layla, Barry, and even Liam, all of them accusing me of pushing them away when they were the ones who had no respect for me. I felt like a stranger in my own life, and worse, like I had lost my husband all over again. I didn't know who I could trust anymore. But one thing was clear: I couldn't handle this alone. So, after a lot of internal turmoil, I called my mother-in-law, Louise. We hadn't spoken much since the funeral, and I didn't know what to expect. But when she showed up, her warmth and understanding were exactly what I needed. She was overjoyed to hear about the baby, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I wasn't completely alone. Louise offered for me to stay at their farm. She said I could have my husband's old room, and though it was bittersweet, I agreed. Maybe it wasn't much, but it was a start. The support from my in-laws was a lifeline. They were there for me when I needed it most, and that night we shared stories, we cried, and we found a way to begin healing.